Welcome to Blitz. I'm Brian Carter here at Rabun County High School with head coach of the Lady Wildcats, DeeDee Dillard. DeeDee, always appreciate and love having you on Blitz. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for coming up. This is an honor, 2 years in a row, so I'm excited that you got to come today.
Absolutely, and your team is I like to think of as a powerhouse team here in North Georgia, and I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen the latest polls in Max Preps, but you've kind of gone up now from number 9 to number 7. Do you worry about where your team stands in the poll, or do you guys get excited to see Rabun County in there?
You know, actually, I don't look at the polls. I don't address them with my girls, especially early in the season, because it's more important to me where we are at the end of the year. So we don't really look at that very much. Now, we do have team goals, and one of them, you know, was to finish back in the top 10 in the state, because we felt like last year we kind of fell off that a little bit. So this team is really motivated and determined to get it back up there. But I try to keep them grounded because, you know, in the long run, these games don't matter as much as the ones, you know, coming in January. So
Absolutely, but even saying that, it's hard to believe we're almost at Christmas break and already almost 10 games in. How would you assess your team so far? What are the things that you really like about what you're seeing out of the girls, and some things that you know that you can improve on?
yeah, one thing that I've really been impressed with is they're playing extremely hard. They don't quit. There's been a couple of games to Dawson County and East Hall where we were down at a point in the game when you knew we weren't going to be able to come back late, like in the last minute, and they just didn't quit fighting. I mean, they were still diving after loose balls and really playing hard and aggressive. So that's very encouraging to see, because I think eventually that's going to pay off for us in some of those close games where, you know, we like to think of ourselves as a fourth quarter team. So that was really exciting. We're also playing a little bit better full court this year. Our full court press seems to be a little bit more effective. You know, offensively, sometimes we rely too much on the full court press for our offensive scoring, and that's something that we've been working on a lot in practice, is just executing in the half court.
Now, I know it has to be tough replacing some of the talent you lost last year, and every coach has to deal with turnover, of course, but last year you lost a lot of talent, especially in the backcourt when you had Riley Klupacek, Molly Benson, Courtney Reeves, and Nicole Ramey. How have you been able to move on without those girls this year?
Well, definitely that they were very talented, and most of those were 2-year starters for me. So they had a lot of experience. On the plus side, the underclassmen that are now, you know, upperclassmen, they got a lot of playing time. We tend to foul a lot, so you know, there were a lot of games where Bailey and some of those other seniors, Alexis, Katie Beth, some of those girls, they were able to come in and gain some valuable experience. So I feel like we've kind of picked up, you know, there without missing a beat, so to speak. The offensive execution that I mentioned, that's where you see the biggest difference, is just not having that 2 years of game time experience come into play there.
And this is a big deal, I think, to me anyway, that you're closing in on 200 wins. Congratulations on that. You're at 197 coming into your December 18th game against Stevens County. How big or how important is that to you, the number 200, getting that 200 wins that's coming up pretty soon?
I think it's a bigger deal for my family. I don't really look at it as my accomplishment, because it's just a collective accomplishment of the teams that I've had in the past. And so, you know, to me, it's kudos to them, and not, it's less about me and more about them. So, you know, my kid, especially Bryce, he's been very excited about that for me. But you know, we just don't really talk about it a whole lot. We're more focused on, you know, are we going to be able to repeat as region champions and make a deep playoff run this year. So
now, you are very modest, but it is going to be quite exciting to see you do that. And you kind of talked about Bryce last year. He graduated, moved on, which I know is a little bit sad for you. But this year, we talked about this last year, and I knew you said that you were going to get emotional about it, and the time has finally come where Bailey is now in her senior year. Talk about what that's been like so far this year. I'm sure there's a lot of emotions going on.
Yeah, it's been good. She's had a really good experience with the summer. I think she and the other seniors have waited for this opportunity to be the leaders. So that's been really fun to see them take over, and Bailey in particular. I mean, I think they're really trying to set a good example for our freshman class of, you know, what it's like to be a leader and to be effective and those kinds of things. So it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I haven't cried yet. Well, okay, that's a lie, but I haven't cried often. I'm sure that will happen as the season draws to a close. But, you know, right now we're just enjoying every moment, and we take a lot of time. I mean, you can tell we're more I guess, hugging more and all that kind of thing. But that happened with Bryce too. So
got to absorb those moments while they're here.
Absolutely.
Now, you mentioned that a lot of these games don't quite really matter, so to speak, until you get into the region games in January. Talk about what it's going to take to pull off the back-to-back region championships and what you kind of expect in region when region play starts up.
Yeah, and when I say they don't matter, I mean, obviously winning matters because you have to learn how to win. And so winning's important, but just that state ranking right now is not as important. But I think just to repeat, I mean, obviously we felt like we have had a target on our back, quite honestly, for a few years now. And so it's just being able to play under that pressure and being able to know that every team is going to give you their best shot. And you've got to be mentally mature enough to handle that because I think, you know, and a lot of times in sports, winners can handle tough situations. They don't get flustered if calls don't go their way or if their shots aren't falling. They find other ways to win. So I think more than anything, it's just are we going to be are we going to grow up enough in time for those situations to happen? Because they will happen. We just have to be ready to handle them. So.
Now, speaking of how to handle different situations like that, last year you get a first-round game here on the home court. Unfortunately, you fall to Dade County. It's really tough to take that one in after the body of work that you put in throughout the whole season. How do your girls kind of respond to that, and how does that fuel their fire this year?
Well, we actually talked about that our first day of practice. I don't know if you saw that we have a slogan above our whiteboard where we meet, and it says the best is yet to come. And I kind of challenged the girls. You know, we talked about year to year how this program has done since I've been coaching, and how last year, even though we were thrilled to win the region championship, and you know, but we lost a lot of close games that we felt like we should have won. And so I challenged them, you know, are you going to be satisfied with that status quo? Or are you going to be ready to take this team to the next level and be the best team that's ever come? Like, are you going to build off of that, or are you gonna let that motivate you to do better? Or are you gonna settle for that and say that that's okay? So we've kind of used that as a springboard coming into this season.
Well, we look forward to all the success you're going to have the rest of the way, and congrats again on your 200th win coming up. Can't wait for that. Yeah, you're definitely going to get it. And congrats again on all the success you've had, and can't wait to see how the rest of the season plays out for you.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Thanks.